We hearing stories and comments from some executives that provide broadband that they may want to restrict their customers' access to either certain sites or to certain services, or so they pop up. If you go on as a consumer, should you have the right, in a sense, to go anywhere, even if it's the competitor of your service provider, or to someone who's not paying for the right to be on there? I mean, what can a consumer expect when they buy broadband?
You know, I think one of the things that the Commission did at the same time is trying to make sure that we were leveling the regulatory playing field for the broadband providers, is also talk about what some of the priorities or principles should be for consumers on these broadband pipes. And I think that along those lines, it's critical that consumers continue to have the access and unfettered access in that sense to all that the internet and these new technologies provide. So I think that Washington and the policymakers would be concerned if you start talking about network providers blocking access, for example, to content that consumers want to be able to go get. And so I think that I think that we're going to continue to be committed to that. That the internet has been provided a wonderful resource of open content that we want to make sure everyone continues to have access to. Now, I do think that there's a difference between that, though, and allowing for network providers to differentiate and sell different speeds of service to individual consumers. And some consumers may want a lower speed because of the service or applications that they are most concerned about, and other consumers it may be worth more to them to pay for and get a better quality of service or a better speed. And I think that I think you can have product differentiation without having any kind of blocking or restricting of consumers having access to that content.
So competition on the basis of speed or storage or things like that is fine and good and healthy.
Right, and I think consumers, you're already seeing that they're differentiating themselves over what kinds of quality or speeds that they may want. And that's a good thing, to try to provide an additional encouragement. And some people may want to pay extra to have even better speeds, and others may want a lower price to be able to make sure that they can still get some kind of broadband applications. And we want to encourage that so that everybody is getting online and everybody is making sure that they're taking advantage of some kind of broadband capability. So that's a good thing. But I think that what you're going to see is people being very concerned if then consumers somehow end up being restricted or prevented from being able to get access to particular kinds of content.
So you're uncomfortable with restrictions on access?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, I think you can't have consumers being blocked and prevented from getting access to content on the internet, which has traditionally been one of its big advantages.
And you think that'll be something that should be the Telecom Act, or is that a natural part of the FCC enforcement role? I mean, how do you translate your discomfort into action? Actually, I think you're saying it today is a pretty strong message.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that you know, I also think, though, that the Commission should be always careful about adopting any kind of rules prior to there being actual complaints about people blocking access to individual content. So, I mean, the issues have been around and being debated for quite some time, and the Commission has talked about several times. We actually adopted a set of policies and principles that we thought reflected how we should have consumers should continue to have open access to different issues on the different content providers. But at the same time, I think that I'm hesitant to have the Commission try to go forward in a rulemaking sense and adopt rules prior to real evidence of having that kind of content block. And so I think that we're going to continue first to wait and see how it plays out in the marketplace. And to the extent that we're having multiple platforms competing with each other, I think that that's probably the most critical thing we can do to make sure that consumers continue to have access to all of the content that's out there.
Well, we've talked about competition in broadband and